This is by popular request. Especially Freedom, one of my viewers, have requested me to make a hunter guide. So I've come up with some points I want to cover in this video, and probably gonna forget a ton, but I'll do my best to try and cover everything. So I've gathered my thoughts and I made a little note here so I don't forget it all. So let's just start from the beginning. Early on, when you're just making your character, of course, you don't have a pet. So you need to learn how to kite. It's a lot easier here on Epoch because, of course, you don't have a dead zone. So let's just jump into my low level. This is on Turtle WoW, my low level hunter here. Early on, you'll have to manage without your pet. This is kind of, in my opinion, something that's very elemental and, mandatory to learn. So one easy way to learn it is you have to understand that you can shoot in a 180-degree radius. So this means straight from my character. If I look straight forward and I just look down like this, then everything up here I can shoot at. As soon as I shift the angle slightly, now I won't be able to hit the bat over there. But if I turn just slightly, now I can hit it, even like this. So you shoot, you move, shoot, you move. You might not have a weapon swing timer, but it's not necessary. You'll get a hang of it. You'll get a feel of when you need to move. Just maybe the first time you count internally how many seconds does it take for my character to reload his bow or a weapon. So you go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. That's the easiest way to learn how to kite. Try to go like max range before you start, and do this while you're running towards your quests. So you're constantly on the move while you're killing mobs. Let's say there's a quest up here I need to get to. I'll just start with the furthest mob, and I'll start moving up there. And it doesn't have to be precise. Just as soon as you see the arrow go off, you start moving. Keep doing this in the early level zones if you want to get a fast head start and just have an easier time, so you don't need to melee the mobs as much as you would if you just stand still like this, wait until the mob gets to. Now this will probably die before it gets to me because I'm high level, but and there's a dead zone here as well. So all right, what else? Yeah, melee weapon above bow can, for some people, if you have a hard time getting hang of the kiting stuff, I recommend just upgrading your melee weapon before you upgrade your bow. So you will, once you get to your first small village, if it's Brill, Razor Hill, or what's it called, Sengen Village, or if it's whatever it is for you, Goldshire or something, and you have to choose. Like you got a few silver. Now you have to choose to buy a new bow or to buy a new melee weapon. I usually actually default to a melee weapon because when you are in trouble, once you have a few mobs on you, and there's no way you can get distance anymore because you don't have anything to increase the distance to the mobs. You'd rather have a good melee weapon so you can actually stand a chance at bringing 2 mobs down and don't have to die and run to your corpse. So I usually default to a good melee weapon, even if you're good at kiting, because, once you get out of the early starter zone and you go out and the mobs are aggressive and with hyper spawns, stuff like that, you do have the risk of running into a couple of mobs, and then it's much better to have a good melee weapon. And now there's also a 5-hit sort of way of doing mob killing, especially early on. I can show you on these two, which would be, you'd probably start with something like this mob over here. Look, stand in a triangle, you start with this mob over here. You start shooting at the mob, maybe even doing your kiting, and now the mob gets close to you, but somebody else is on his way to your quest mob over here. So melee this, and in between your melee swings, you shoot. You slap, you shoot, you slap, you shoot. Now they get slow once the mob is very low health. Usually it's not that big of an issue because they're already dead by that time. Maybe I can show you on a little bit higher level mob. But you get the point, right? You can actually shoot in between your melee swings. Not too fast, because then you'll cancel your auto shot. But sometimes, and in this position, it's nice to have a good melee weapon. This also becomes easier once you get your pet. and this is still a viable option to grind mobs fast once you get your pet. There's an even easier way, or more, let's say, more relaxed way, less effective way, but more relaxed way of doing it. I'll show you later on. Okay, early on then, once you can get a pet, which would be at the level 10, this is mostly, by the way, for vanilla. So my experience is mostly from vanilla, TPC, a little bit of ref, but ref, it all gets like, everything changes so much. So vanilla TPC stuff, but we are getting ref talents on pets. We are getting a lot of different pet abilities, maybe some ref pet abilities. So, things may change, but here's why in vanilla that I usually go for a boar. First of all, I always play orc, so I have easy access to a boar. And that's, of course, the first and foremost. If you play hunter, you'll have to go for something else. But if you play either troll or orc, or maybe even tauren, I'd say go for a boar. They can eat everything. They are omnivorous, so to say. So it's a lot easier. You have a lot easier time keeping your pet happy. You don't need to go buy food usually. Whatever you find, you can feed it. Also, at the beginning, pets are very slow, at least in vanilla. They're very slow, and boars come with charge. So that helps a lot with the gap closing. If you start shooting them up and the boar isn't there yet, like it'll take some time for the pet to run to the mob. So therefore, you'll likely pull aggro from the mob. That happens a lot in vanilla. Maybe it's not an issue here on Epoch, but that happens a lot in vanilla. Therefore, you want the gap closer. The pet will charge it. It will root the target in place for a second, and then it will do a harder hit to generate more aggro, and by that you're moving faster from mob to mob to mob. And here on Epoch, maybe boars will even get gore, so you'd absolutely use gore instead of bite. But once you can get a boar with bite, you'd want to use bite, and bite is better than claw, and I'll get to why later on, especially for, I have to take, what's it called? Point of reference is vanilla. So, because we don't know exactly what they've changed. Once you reach level 32, maybe it's best to wait until 34 actually. Go ahead and get a Carrion bird, and I'll talk more about that later on. And then at level 60, I usually get a winged serpent from CG. And when it comes to Epoch for PvP, you probably get a crab, because I think they can pin the target in place. So that's a PvE thing for sure, and much more. That's huge for PvP if you go that route. This is mainly for leveling with PvP in mind, but also PvE. Like some things are PvE. The boar stuff, that's PvE oriented. Okay, next up, manage pet focus. And one thing that's important to understand is if you choose claw on your pet will empty its focus and sometimes not have enough focus for its growl or taunt ability. And therefore you will pull aggro from the pet again, and the mob will run towards you. So that's why I choose bite, especially early on in the early levels. Choose bite, or in this case could be gore if you get a boar, because it has a cooldown of, I think, 10 seconds or something. So you won't, like claw has no cooldown, even though it costs less, it has no cooldown. So your pet will spam it and sometimes not afford its second taunt, which will help the pet to hold aggro. While bite makes it so that you always have enough focus for the pet to do its taunt, right? Makes sense? And then your rotation is usually just auto shot, maybe also Serpent Sting, and rank 1 multi-shot. I always just do rank 1 multi-shot in vanilla, but things have changed a little bit here on Epoch, because now Arcane Shot starts scaling with your, it did in TPC, started scaling with your attack power, so that's actually quite a big difference. So things may change, but this is what I usually stick to when leveling. Because in vanilla, Arcane Shot doesn't really do much. It's like when you're in a clutch or really need to down them up, then you add Arcane Shot into your rotation. But multi-shot is basically an auto shot plus some extra damage, while Arcane Shot is capped in vanilla, but it's not in here, so take that into consideration. And then when it comes to how you control your pet, I'll show you on my, this is on Classic Era, and I'll show you here on my very, very old Era character, if I'm hopefully not getting ganked. We'll see. Oh, there we go. Should probably help with that. They don't even want to participate. Anyway, sorry about that. All right, so you want your pet attack and follow to be on your mouse wheel. So when you move your mouse forward, pet attacks your mouse wheel forward, pet attacks. And then once you roll the mouse wheel back, then your pet becomes passive or walks back. So I always put it on passive. I'll explain when you should put it on defensive instead. But to start off with, mouse wheel is so much better. And also, if you have it on, you can make a macro. I'll show you later how to make this macro. That's a mouse over. So I have one target, and that's the most important stuff to be most effective, is you want a mouse over macro, so that what you mouse over gets prioritized over what you have targeted. I have this one targeted, but if I hold my mouse over this, the pet will move over here and start attacking this one, right? So what you do is you send your pet to your main target. Pet gets aggro. Let's put on growl as well. And I start with Serpent thing. Just starts auto shooting. And once the pet gets low to this point, I just mouse over and send my pet to the next mob. I loot the mob and start auto shooting the next one. Now the pet already has a lot of aggro on this one, and now he's low. So I send the pet over to the next mob and I loot this one. I usually stay in aspect of the cheetah. So if just grinding mobs or going from mob to mob to mob for a quest, this is the most effective way of doing it, if your pet can keep up, which should be a lot easier. Sorry about that. That was a pet getting low health. I put a meow on it once the pet gets low, so that I know to pull my pet back in PvP. And for some reason I'm getting aggro, because maybe my pet is focus starved. Once again, because, you know, this, what's it called, this lightning breath, there's no cooldown on this either. So as you see, if you have abilities with no cooldown, pet gets focus starved, you take aggro from the pet. That's why you want an ability with a cooldown that doesn't expend too much. Make sure that the pet always have enough focus for growl. So this is pretty much how you level. And pet health should be much less of an issue, because your mint pet in Epoch is not a channeled spell. It's a hot, so you just press it once and it should tick on the pet. At least that's how it worked in Wrath of the Lich King, and we are on a Wrath of the Lich King client, and I even think it worked that way in TPC, so that should be the same in here. So yeah, once again, set your pet in, start doing its thing, mouse over to the other target. Usually the pet will keep the aggro, and it did on this time because I have growl and it uses it on cooldown now, so a lot more aggro. Well, I am in max gear, so of course I am doing a lot of damage to these mobs. Once it gets a little bit below half health, usually that's when usually the pet will keep the aggro, but usually that's when I send my pet to the next mob and start generating threat. And of course, when you do your shots, you need to always weave them in between your auto shots. You don't need a weapon swing timer for this. You just look at your character or listen to your character. You do an auto shot, then you do an ability. Then the auto shot comes, then you do your ability. And now for a little bit more advanced stuff. Because if you really need to, you could do 2 mobs fast like this. I'll send my pet over to this one. He'll start generating threat on this. I'll start on this guy over here. And then you do 1 auto shot or 1 melee swing, and you weave in your... now I'm using a macro, so my auto shots start using aim shot instead. But this way you can weave in a auto attack in between your auto shots and get 2 mobs at the same time, basically. Let me show you again. Send the pet on this one. I'll attack this one. Swing. Shoot. Swing. Shoot. You can even do Raptor Strike. Yeah. Well, this doesn't work when you're as geared as I am, because you will always be pulling threat from your pet. But essentially, that's how you would go about it. Weave in even on your melee strikes, weave in your Raptor strike as well. All right. Oh yeah, that's the here's the thing about what do you do if you put pet attack on mouse wheel forward and pet passive on mouse wheel back. Where do you put your zoom in and zoom out? Those two you put on page up and page down. And it's kind of important to have a good system for PvP on how to control also both PvE, so don't do hunt stuff and pull. But you want to basically have your zoom in and zoom out on page up, page down, or something else. And when you think about it, how often do you actually adjust your zoom? Like, is it really that important? If you have side buttons on your mouse, you could also use those for pet attack. So if you are too used to, I say always just get used to not zooming in and out on the mouse wheel. That's really not something important usually. And then when should you put your pet be passive and when should it be defensive? And your macro, you want to build your macro so that for raids, you want your pet to be passive. You want pet passive in raids, because if a AoE spell hits the pet starts attacking and you don't constantly want to pull back the pet. So in raids and sometimes also in dungeons, especially high level ones, I always have send pet back. I always had that on pet passive, so it goes back to passive. That way it won't attack even if the pet gets attacked. You have complete control. When leveling, especially if you're not used to controlling your pet, then actually I prefer to... then you want your pet to be on defensive once you call it back, because if your guy gets attacked or something happens while you're AFK, say I want to go AFK right here, so at some point a mob will walk into me and it'll attack me, and if the pet doesn't attack it, it'll kill me and I'll have to corpse run. But if the pet is on defensive, even if this mob attacks me, the pet will start attacking it instead and protect me, and likely kill it before it can kill me, and thereby protecting me against the open world, mobs when you're AFK and stuff like that. So that's the logic behind that. Back to the list. Now for level 34, that's when I always go for a Carrion bird because of its ability to tank, mainly due to Screech, and it has a very high armor coefficient. But mostly, the most important thing is Screech, which is an AoE taunt or an AoE debuff that can hold threat on multiple targets, and it also just generates an obscene amount of threat. So you actually can toggle off your growl, usually, especially in vanilla. You can toggle off your growl and it will, the Screech will keep threat. I'll probably show something on screen to show how effective it is. That also opens up for pulling multiple mobs at the same time and using cleave spell or cleave abilities like multi-shot, Serpent Sting on both targets, just to rot them down faster. And since it's Epoch, you even get to open up for explosive trap if you have the mana to afford it. You could run up, place an explosive trap, and it should be able to keep aggro all the time still. But of course, you have to get a feel for that because it really depends on how much damage you're doing, of course. But again, we are playing on Epoch, so we don't really know for sure if we'll be getting something even better, maybe a gorilla. And since pets get talents, I can remember from Raft that there's something like a thunderclap, which bears and other defensive pets could get. So we never really know what's in store for us. It could be very much changed, and pet abilities could come down exclusively to, talents. So it doesn't really matter what the pet has, Screech, or even if that's a thing anymore. So, but I can only use vanilla as my point of reference for this, because we don't know for sure. At level 60, I'd go with the CG, pet, the serpent, wind serpent from CG. That's the pet that I have. Don't mind the name. It has magic damage from lightning breath, of course. So, and that's one thing, because magic damage goes through armor, which is really, really great against the warriors and paladins and basically any class that has a lot of druids, for that matter, has a lot of armor. You do more damage to those. It's also ranged, so once a mage hits you with Nova, you're not just sitting, or your pet is not just locked there, not being able to do anything. The pet can still, within range, of course, still shoot some lightning breath, which can interrupt the spell, the spellcaster, which is nice. Or in any other route, your pet can still interrupt eating or drinking, all that kind of stuff, get that range faster. And one thing I forgot to mention about the Carrion bird, this is also around the time where the Carrion bird can get dive, so it can get close as fast as the boar. So usually you go boar, then you go Carrion bird, and then you go the serpent. And then another great thing about the serpent is that it eats mage food, so conjured food. It will eat the conjured food, and I have some mage food here. And I just have a macro for this one. That this is an all-in-one macro. If the pet is angry or unhappy, it feeds the pet. If I just press it, it dismisses the pet. Once the pet is dismissed, if I press it again, it summons the pet. So yeah, kind of an all-in-one macro for the pet. I'll show you guys all the macros at the end. All right. What else is there? Yeah, maybe for PvP, maybe we'll be getting a crab instead. Mossy in his video talked about the crabs maybe have pin, or likely will have pin, which is a 4-second root. That is just insanely strong in PvP against melee classes, against any class for that matter. It makes it easy to get your aim shot off, which in TPC has the Mortal Strike effect, reducing healing done. So you probably want to couple those two together to make sure you get there. Or just in a clutch situation, if somebody is about to walk around the pillar in an arena fight, then you can pin him down and he won't be able to line up sight you. Before we go into talents, let's actually cover this. So under abilities you want to look for, first of all, you get your Serpent Sting. I think it's at level 4. And then at level 8 you get your Concussive Shot. Concussive Shot is huge for making it even easier to kite mobs. So why do I write this down? It's just so you don't go to your trainer, waste time, because there's really not much else to get in between here. Then at level 12 you get a Ment Pet. That's important. You don't want your pet to die, so this one is important. Level 18 you get your multi-shot, and at level 20 of course you get your Aspect of the Cheetah. And how to use Aspect of the Cheetah in PvP. So first of all, I wrote also a nice button. First of all, you want your Aspect of the Cheetah to be bound to something close to your hand. And I can't really show you on any of these mobs, but basically I usually just run around in Aspect of the Cheetah all the time. I rarely jump into Aspect of the Hawk. That's pretty much only in dungeons or confined areas where I need to kill a lot of mobs in a very confined area. But it's faster to just stay in Aspect of the Cheetah. Because you'll get to mobs faster, get in between mobs faster, you'll get to loot the mob faster and send your pet to the next one. So there's really no need, which is also why in the talents I usually skip in the leveling process. I actually usually skip improved Aspect of the Hawk, because once I did the math on it, which was fast, was it faster to swap between Hawk and Aspect of the Cheetah, or was it faster to stay in Aspect of the Hawk or stay in Aspect of the Cheetah? I found out every single time I leveled a lot faster if I just stayed in Aspect of the Cheetah. But if you run into PvP, it's nice to be able to swap in and out of Aspect of the Cheetah on the go. And mainly just put it, you don't need a macro for this or anything, you just put it on a button close to your hand. So if a mage here starts casting a spell on you, you see him casting a spell, you always want to create as much distance as possible. You start kiting, you start moving away from the mage, and once the frostbolt is in the air, or whatever, fireball or whatever he's casting against you, or even if a warrior stops up or a rogue, that happens a ton to me, they'll try to daze you, basically. So you run once you see the arrow in the air from whatever or whatever casted ability they have, you just swap out of your aspect of the cheetah for a second. Once the ability hits you and you see you take the damage, you swap back into it real fast. And this can be done within 2 globals. So see 1 global, and when you press it off, you don't activate the global again. So you press it, and you can actually turn it off and press it again straight after. So it's almost like you won't even... it will almost look as if aspect of the cheetah they never come off you, or sometimes why didn't you get dazed from... if it's in a duel, why didn't you get dazed from my ability? They don't get to see that I actually turn it on and off. It goes so fast, maybe unless they look at the animation, or if the animation is bugged out, then they won't see it. But turn it on and off real fast. Once you get hit, turn it right before you get hit. Of course, you turn it off. And then once the ability has hit you, you turn it on again and continue kiting. Aspect of the monkey and the turns for the warrior. Flare close to the rogue. So if he tries to vanish, he'll get caught in the flare. Don't waste scatter shot on a trap against a warrior. You'll need it for these situations. Serpent sting on the rogue at all times, so he can't vanish. If he tries to daze you, swap in and out of aspect of the cheetah. Stutter step shoot while you create more distance. You can even do it within a charge, if a warrior charges you, because even if you're stunned, you can turn it off. So, and that's huge for hunters. I don't think many hunters realize that. If you try to turn it off by swapping into another aspect, then you can't do that within the stun. But you can turn it off by just clicking on it, same as you would if you just left-clicked on it up here, even while stunned, or locked down, or CC'd, or whatever. So something that's very, very important to know. Another thing that's important to know is, and this is something we don't know, actually, if Scattershot shares diminishing returns with Freezing Trap. It does in vanilla. I think it does in TBC as well, but we're running on a Wrath client, and I'm not sure it actually does on the Ref client. So, but it's very, very good to know that these two could share diminishing returns. So usually if you want to set up a trap, try and see if it's against the melee class, try and see if you can do it without Scattershot. The trap will hold for a lot longer. If it's a ranged cast or a caster, then usually you have to go with the diminished trap, because you want to make sure it actually lands with your Scattershot. Alright. Also, another thing, if a warrior charges you or something, you usually want to swap into aspect of the monkey and activate the turns. So you have those two up at the same time. That's going to increase your dodge chance a lot more. Alright. And then another great thing, of course, is that at level 20 we get Disengage. That's the same Disengage that we got in Ref. Except for one thing, you have to be grounded, which is just stupid. I don't see any reason for that. So, meaning you have to stand on the ground. Usually whenever hunters play, they jump and then they disengage at the same time, so they can get a little bit further out. And that's something that's just baked into my way of playing. So I'm probably going to struggle a lot with that, because it's just such a habit of always just jumping right before and turning your back right before you use Disengage. But I'm going to have to get used to that. And then another change is now hunters with the aspect of running fast, which is aspect of the pack, is now a 5-minute cooldown that I think doesn't daze you. At least that's what I hope it doesn't. It doesn't say anything on the web page that it dazes you. Let's see if I can find it. So here it is. Increase movement speed by 40%. Only one aspect can be active at a time. So I think there's no daze on this. So basically hunters are getting a semi 5-minute cooldown sprint, and probably last for something like 8 seconds. I got that from Mossy's video, by the way. But this one says if the hunter is struck, she will be dazed for 4 seconds. So there's been a change, and now it's a cooldown. It's probably going to be mostly used, or the thought of it was probably mostly be used in raid environments to move your entire raid. Even though it says group, some people are speculating that it's raid wide. So you can easily move the entire raid out of a boss ability or something really fast. So the other use case of this is, of course, in PvP. If you can actually, with this, in this case, you can actually use your aspect of the pack, or which is equivalent, or actually faster than your aspect of the cheetah now, because aspect of cheetah is 30%, this is 40%. You can upgrade it to 48%, that's almost 50% movement speed without getting dazed, and that's really huge for PvP, for hunters, along with, of course, your disengage. Of course, you get all the other stuff as well. Kill command, you get the aspect of the vibe up. You guys all know that. That's not, you can just go in here and see, but why I'm not talking about those is because if you read them, they're all level 50 or above. So that's not really relevant for leveling. And while this is a leveling guide, I'm not going to be talking about stuff that you won't be using until really, really late game. So, of course, once you get your aspect of the Viper, that's just the best. And kill command, of course, that's going to help a lot. So is everything else, like your steady shot. Apparently, they didn't want to get steady shot at low levels because probably hunters would be stupid fast then. So, which is fine. But I would like to get used to using steady shot a lot earlier than level 52. Alright. Shall we go into some talents then, probably? Yeah, macros, I'll do that after the talents. So let's move on into talents. And here I got my preferred leveling talents. You go 5 out of 5 endurance. Then you go to... Let's actually just do it together. Let's see if I can remember all of this. Yeah. You go 5 in endurance. Then you go into improved revive pit, which if your pet dies, you want to be able to get it back fast. And then 3 into thick hide. Then I go straight to the movement speed, and then I go 4 points into Unleashed Fury. You could also skip that one for now, do 2 points into Pathfinding, and then 2 points into Unleashed Fury for that extra movement speed if you really like that. Sometimes I do this, really depends on, you know, my approach to leveling. But for now, for this purpose, we'll be going 4 points into Unleashed Fury. And then again, here comes an option. Going into improved pent med can actually be really, really great, especially if you plan on tanking dungeons with your pet. And just, you know, especially in specific quests or specific mobs. We don't know what mobs will be doing, and they said they changed mob abilities a lot here on Epoch, so maybe a lot of them have curses, diseases, magic, or poison. Which at least 1 point in here, since it ticks so often, your main pet, you can easily dispel those debuffs on your pet with just 1 point in here. So I recommend at least 1 point in here, and then the rest into ferocity until you open up for intimidation, then 1 point into intimidation, and 2 points into bestial discipline for that extra focus regeneration. And then you go back, fill in the rest in ferocity. That's what I usually do. And then until Unleashed Fury, you open up for frenzy. Just want 4 points in frenzy. That's even sometimes 3 points. It really depends on how fast your pet is attacking. But I just usually go 4 points. 80% chance to gain 30 attack speed is more than enough on a crit. 100% that extra 20% chance. Rarely will you see the pet actually not get the 30% attack speed buff. 80% chance to get it. That's more than enough for this. And then you could go in and get a little bit extra hit chance on your pet. Or you could go back into either improvement pet or backfill in pathfinding, even focused fire, because it's still 1 more damage, or 2% more damage to your pet, even though you won't benefit from the kill command just yet, because you get kill command so late. And let's actually check, I think. Where did I have it? Oh, I had it here, yeah. Kill command is 56. So a long time until you get kill command. So you won't see a huge benefit from you won't see a huge benefit from focused fire yet, but that 2% extra hit chance could be bigger. Usually I skip this for leveling actually, and because I want to do a lot of tanking with my pet in dungeons. That's usually what I do in vanilla with the Carrion bird. So I'll go 1 extra point into improvement pet, then bestial wrath, and from here, because I want to tank with the pet, I go for cat-like reflexes. 3 points into cat-like reflex that increases the pet survivability a lot, especially when multiple mobs are hitting the pet. And then you could again choose between pathfinding or animal handler. Let me just take care of this. But there's no real wrong options when it comes to this last talent. And then you of course want 5 points into Serpent Swiftness and open up for the Beast Within, which is crazy good for PvP. And the rest will probably go into marksmanship. But it really depends on what you're doing. For leveling speed, of course, go into marksmanship. There are some arguments as to why you would maybe go into survival, at least get savage strikes, and sometimes even all the way down to deterrence, just to increase that open world survivability, especially against melee classes. So it really depends on if you have war mode up or not. But if you just focused on, maximum damage, I usually go into lethal shots. I'm always focused around PvP, so I always get improved concussive shot. Go for the throat, 2 points into rapid killing. Of course, you pick aim shot first, then you go for the throat, and then you go for rapid killing, and then the rest into mortal shots. The other option, if you're facing a lot of melee enemies, I don't think it's going to be such a big problem since you get disengaged now and you get the extra sprint from aspect of the pack. So probably just stick with the marksmanship, but just for funsies, I'd go do something like this. Sometimes I get entrapment, but especially if I'm going for PvP battlegrounds, if I'm leveling through battle, since you can level through PvP, I'd probably stick with this. If not, I'd go take human slaying, 2 points in here. But for me, I'd do 2 points in entrapment. I think it's really, really fun to place frost traps inside and outside of the tunnel in Warsong Gulch. So whenever people run out, they get rooted or try to run away with the flag, they get rooted all the time and they have to go through that area. So that's really annoying for them. So I always do entrapment and then of course deterrence. And then I backfill into either lethal shots with the rest or concussive shot for PvP, of course. I want most of my points in concussive shot and the rest in lethal. And that would be your PvP focused or dual focused build. I would change some things once you reach level 60. I would change a lot of things in here if you're mainly focused on PvP, or for that matter, mainly focused for PvE. There are a lot of things you would change once you reach level 60. Of course, for PvE, you absolutely want improved aspect of the Hawk. And for PvP, you also want, of course, focused fire. As soon as you can get kill command, you want to respec and get the points into focus fire if you did not get them during the leveling process. So you'd respec at a higher level anyway. But those two are huge for PvE as well as animal handler. That extra hit chance for the pet in PvE is very, very important. And of course, Ferocious Inspiration is huge to buff your entire raid with 3% extra damage once you hit crits. For PvP, you'd skip on Thick Hide usually and put those points into aspect of the monkey instead, just avoiding that extra dodge chance. Just getting that extra dodge chance is just so huge in PvP. Being able to sometimes dodge a kidney shot or dodge a Crusader strike or dodge something, big from melee classes. That can be a game changer, while a few percentage extra damage won't be a game changer to that same extent. Usually I try to remove points from damage and put them into defense instead of removing points from one defensive ability into another, because this still gives you 10% more armor, which can be big. Really depends on how much armor you're already getting from your gear. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my rant about all this stuff. What did I forget to mention? Oh yeah, macros and pets and stuff. So I have a Word document here, and let's go over it. So there's a checklist here. You might want to take a picture of this. Just pause the video, take a picture of this on your phone, and have it next to you. This is just something good to remember whenever you get into town. So every time you arrive in town, remember to set your heartstone if this is something you need. Remember to buy arrows, to have food for your pet, learn new abilities, and the pet abilities, especially something like growl. Upgrading professions, of course, and remember to get a skinning knife or mining pick once you get into Orgrimmar or whatever to get your first gathering profession if that's something you're going for. Also, once you get to new towns, especially if your horde get to Undercity, remember to train weapon skills. As a hunter, you learn crossbow and sword specialization. You get swords from in there as well. And of course, always remember to get the goddamn flight pass. That sucks so much to have to run all the way back there. So that's probably the one thing that should have been on top, because that's the first thing you need to go ahead and do, is get the flight pass. All right. Now we come into some pet progression. But again, take all of this with a huge grain of salt, because maybe and likely all of this has been normalized. So maybe all of these coefficients doesn't exist anymore in Project Epoch. Likely they don't. But this is, for my part of what I do for vanilla as well. So yeah, this is just showing coefficients. Here's the Carrion bird. It scales 1-to-1 with the health, damage, and then it has a plus 5% armor coefficient. And of course you have cats that has a plus 10% to raptors as well. Cats here have a plus 10% to damage and low armor. So stuff like that. But again, this might not be relevant at all. If they do it like in Rev, where they put pets into specializations, tenacity, cunning, and what the other one's called, can't remember. Tank pet. Or ferocity, I think. Yeah, ferocity. Tenacity, that's the tanking. Cunning, that's the PvP pet. And ferocity, that's the damage pet. So, all right, then there's, again, ability progression, but maybe that's not even relevant. But just let me zoom in on this, because maybe they are relevant. So when you learn and what creatures will learn what. But again, this may also have been completely changed. If you're horde, then and want to get this Carrion bird with Screech ability, then you have to tame a Salt Flats Vulture that's tameable at level 32 all the way up to level 34. That's why I say probably better idea to be level 34, because then you're sure once you find a Salt Flats Vulture, then you can actually tame it. Because it may, if you're a level 32 and the pet is level 33 or 34, then sucks to run around there without a pet. And you have to, either abandon or stable your pet to tame a new one. So it sucks to have to run all the way back for that. And here are the spawn points. This is, of course, in 1,000 needles. One here, and one here. And those are great for also tanking, like Scarlet Monastery dungeons. So, but again, we don't know for sure if it's the same in here. And here again, we have Carrion bird learn Screech, and it can learn Claw. I recommend you don't use Claw and just have it on Screech, because there's no cooldown on Screech. It eats fish and meat, so that's so now you have to actually buy food for it. And it has that 5% armor scaling coefficient. And here are the ranks of Screech. If you need to, if it's the same as in vanilla, here you see the breakpoints when you get the next rank of Screech. So it jumps up from rank 2 to rank 3. It takes a long while until you can get to this one. And here we come to the macros. Most importantly, pet control, mouse over, pet attack. Mouse over, pet attack. And then also you can bake this into the macro as well. So the pet, if it's on passive, once you set it to attack, it becomes defensive. That way, if another mob is attacking the pet at the same time, Like say you send a pet over to one mob and it also attacks another mob. Say if I send my pet over here, this mob will start attacking my pet. Well, it should, but my pet is too high level. So let's say this is the case, right? Now my pet is attacking two mobs. If it's still on passive, then once this mob is dead, the pet will go back to me. And it won't start attacking this mob on its own. I want my pet to attack this mob on its own. So once this here is dead, sorry for the noise. Once this one's dead, now the pet automatic, I didn't do anything. The pet automatically started attacking this mob because it was on defensive. And there we get the charge. That's why I hate these mobs. Now the pet is almost dying. All right. So that's why you probably want pet defensive. And these macros should work. They work for classic, which is on the retail system of building macros. I also have all of these macros for third WoW or the 1.12 client. So all of this works the same. But those macros are a lot longer. And then here's if you want to bake in Hunter's Mark into it, then you bake this one into it as well. And it'll add Hunter's Mark, which is actually sometimes really nice, especially on the later versions, because it starts scaling up in damage the more times you hit on a mob. So especially for dungeons and stuff, that's actually really nice to have Hunter's Mark on it. And this is how it works. You don't even need to press them up. Once again, say I'm attacking this one over here. I want to send my pet over here. It will mark the target and send the pet in without me pressing them up. Yeah. All right. So Hunter's Mark. Like that. Oh. Okay. See, I always stand to the side. Whenever you engage a mob, that's just a good thing to learn. Always stand like this. Never face it straight front. Also in PvP, just want to stand like this, because when you just press A, you start moving to the side, or D if it's on the other side of you. All right. The follow button, we already went over that. You just write /pet passive. This is the call, revive, dismiss, feed pet from back slot 1. So you want to have your pet food up here. That's back slot 1. And if you then press this, then it will first check and see if the pet needs food. If it's unhappy, it will feed it. If not, it will. It still will feed it, actually. Where will it feed it from? It will feed it from slot 1. And then it will try to revive the pet if it's dead. And if it's alive, it will dismiss the pet. And if it's dismissed, it will call the pet. And here says this. I'm not sure if it actually, yeah, it is relevant for this one as well. So yeah, let's do this, because you can actually turn off your auto shot when spamming your auto shot ability. So here you want to have a /cast auto shot, and I always bake aim shot into it as well. So that way, but that's for vanilla. In this case, you'd bake in steady shot instead of aim shot. And that's to make sure that you always cast your auto shot first and don't waste time, because that can hurt your overall DPS a lot. If you start with, and I think I have it baked into everything I have. But if you just start with, I don't think actually I have it in my aim shot, because there are certain situations where you don't want to break the mob. If, let's say, the mob is in a freezing trap and you want to shoot aim shot, you don't want auto shot first, because then you break the trap and it starts charging you. Here you just want straight into aim shot and rapid fire. You want to bake, I always do, at least want to bake, especially for PvP, you want to bake in your rapid fire into your aim shot. I think this one comes later, actually. No, it doesn't. Okay, so we want to make this macro as well. That's just rapid fire, aim shot. And that's because the cast time changes based on your attacks, on your haste rating. And this increases your haste by 40%. So it actually almost half it reduces the aim shot by almost half. So instead of a 3-second cast, it's yeah, much less. So you get that aim shot off much faster. So that's a great thing to combine it. Just make sure you have your, when you write the macro, you have the rapid fire first and then the aim shot. And that's for my for breaking traps, wanting to engage people without, like from a distance, without them realizing it or something. And for the other one, for my steady shot macro, I usually put in exclamation mark auto shot, and then either aim shot or steady shot for my raid or PvE rotation. So that one you see here, it starts an auto shot. Even though I pressed aim shot, it always starts off with an auto shot, then an aim shot, then an auto shot. So I get one extra auto shot in because of this macro. It always makes sure that I get my auto shot off. So now we are moving a little bit into late game with these macros, but I think it's important to show this. And then for your melee abilities, I usually bake Raptor Strike, Wing Clip, and Auto Attack into one. You cannot have, for some reason, I'm not sure if it's still the case on Epoch, but in Vanilla you can't have your Mongoose Bite baked into this, because then one of the abilities won't work. Then either your Raptor Strike or your Wing Clip just won't go off. So usually you just do I have a target nearest enemy, then exclamation mark Raptor Strike, because then it doesn't turn it off if you spam it. Then Wing Clip, Blood Fury, that's just your Orc racial you could. In Vanilla, it only applies to melee attack power, so you basically don't want it on any of your shots. You only want it on your melee attacks, but because that has changed, if you roll Orc here on Epoch, then you probably want to bake this into your aim shot instead. And then start attack, so it always just attacks. Even if you spam it, don't turn off your auto attack. Trap Feign Death, that's irrelevant because Epoch, you can place traps in what's it called? In combat. This is just ask a mage for food and water, and also open the trade chat. So I press this one if I have, I don't know, yeah, I can whisper myself. It says, dear mage, can I please have some food and water? And usually he will trade you both. Sometimes he won't. And he'll just trade you the water. And then I always follow up with this one. And the little food is for my pet. And that's mainly if you have your wind serpent. Then you want to be able to give it the mage food. Right. Yeah, I have all of those on Turtle WoW. So I could go over the those macros, but that's not really relevant for this video. So let's skip it. Right. And I think that's it for this one. Have fun leveling on Project Epoch. This is what I'm going to do. But it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Are a few changes in the talent trees. Serpent Swiftness has been nerfed, so it's no longer 20% attack speed to your pet, it's 10. And Marksmanship, Silencing Shot, and True Shot Aura has swapped places, so you get Silencing Shot earlier, which opens up to a bit more options when it comes to hybrid build, like having Silencing Shot and getting maybe a little bit deeper into the survival tree, if you would even want to do that. But yeah, I think that covered it all. Anyway, that's it for this one. Ask me any questions in the comments. I'll try to see if I missed anything. Just ask me and then we'll go over it.